Welcome, everyone. Full house tonight. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming, I said. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Can you hear me? There you go. Great. Meeting notice announcement, Lee?
Sure. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Sparta Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be advertised by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Sparta Board of Education office, 18 Mohawk Avenue, as designated by the Board of Education for posting of such notice in a public place. Written notice was emailed on January 6, 2023 to the New Jersey Herald, the Star Ledger, tapintosparta.net, and to the Township Clerk specifying the date, time, and place of this meeting.
Thanks, Lee. We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I apologize, but to start the meeting, we have to go into closed session for an attorney-client privilege. It'll be a quick 15 minutes. So at this time, I make a motion to go into closed session for attorney-client privilege.
Motion. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll be back. Resume to open session. Joanne, can we get a roll call?
Ms. Collier? Ms. Keeling?
Here.
Mr. Knapp?
Here.
Ms. McMichael?
Here.
Mr. Pelesci? Ms. Pitzer?
Here.
Ms. Seelander?
Here.
Dr. Serrano?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Beck for district recognition.
I'll do that from the podium. Good evening. This is one of my favorite times of year when we get to recognize our exemplary staff and education support specialists. In the late fall, we ask for nominations from the community, from our parents, and from the fellow teachers of who they would nominate for Staff Member of the Year, Educator Support Specialist of the Year, or Teacher of the Year. This then concludes in December after everything is tallied. And right before winter break, one of my favorite days, I get to go around and tour all the schools with Ms. Rossi and some other central office administration. We go around and we surprise/embarrass the teachers, and the ed support specialists in their classroom, which is great. So they were honored at that time. They were announced at that time. Tonight, as we do every year at the February board meeting, we will acknowledge them for the Board of Education. And then also in May, the Sussex County Superintendent's Roundtable Association hosts a luncheon where these recipients and one of their guests come, and they are honored at that luncheon as well. So with that, I will turn it over to the principals, and the way that they are stacked, we will start with the high school. Yeah, all right.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Beck. All right. So I'll start with just a quick story from today. I was speaking to our educational support professional of the year, and I said, you ready for tonight? And she said, yeah, I'm going to be there. And I said, okay, great. Are your parents going? Anybody come with you? No. And I said, what, your parents? No, they're not coming? No. I said, give me your mother's phone number right now. And she did. And I called her mom. And I said, well, are you coming tonight? What's going on? Your daughter's an educational professional. And so she couldn't come. Her daughter didn't tell her to come, is one thing. She had plans for tonight with her other daughter, so she couldn't come. But it was a really fun phone call, just telling her how great her daughter is and how much we respect her, and what a great job she does for us. So with that, I will read some stuff about Miss Monaco. Miss Monaco is a major asset to the school community and supports both students and faculty in every and any capacity. In addition to facilitating our INRS, RTI, 504, Climate and Culture Committee, Lauren is the anti-bullying specialist and meets with students of all grade levels and backgrounds consistently throughout the school day. She's proactive in her approach to school counseling and school climate, facilitating crisis trainings for all school staff and meetings with students, parents, families, administrators, staff, and other stakeholders to ensure that she is aware of and meets the students' social, emotional, and academic needs. In addition, she conducts threat and risk assessments during crisis situations. She is well-versed in thorough and follow-through, reaching out to facilities, counselors, and parents, and ensuring that students are set up for success. She's a stabilizing force in our building and is also the first to highlight student and staff accomplishments. She spearheads our Staff Member of the Month initiative. Through the Climate Committee, she has created surveys to assess and evaluate student and staff needs, and she has initiated activities and events to bring awareness to issues and to celebrate diverse perspectives. She has also been an integral part in growing our restorative discipline approaches as a counselor in the Align program, and is often our go-to resource for support. She's hardworking, dedicated, and invested in all facets of the school and community, and totally deserves this recognition for serving as a critical component to Sparta High School in both times of crisis and in times of celebration. And she's our student assistant counselor, and her name is Lauren Monaco. All right, next is our Educator of the Year. Christina Acevedo is an absolute remarkable teacher who deserves this honor. She shows an incredible range in the students that she teaches by bringing special education experiences into the general education classroom. She teaches a wide range of student levels, seniors and freshmen, academic and AP, and constantly seeks to improve herself as an educator. She continues to show her range in the kind of professional development that she provides for our district. Some of her workshops are rooted in technology as she continues to lead our teachers through Promethean boards, Edulastic, and other new digital frontiers, while others are more directly pedagogical, like self-paced classroom, multisensory reading approaches, and the like. Despite that experience, Christina continues to show humility and a commitment to her own growth. She has moved into new courses, English 9 honors and AP research, that have pushed her beyond her comfort zone. Her lessons are engaging and her approaches are creative. She is a master teacher, a master co-teacher, and among the very finest of what Sparta High School has to offer. It is my pleasure to announce Ms. Christina Acevedo as our Educator of the Year.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Frank Jabori, and I'm the principal at Sparta Middle School. And it is my sincere pleasure to introduce to you tonight the Governor's Educator of the Year Award from Sparta Middle School. This year's SMS Governor Educator of the Year from Sparta Middle School is Mrs. Fitch. Mrs. Fitch currently teaches language arts to 8th grade students on the Emerald team at Sparta Middle School. She is exceptionally skilled at what she does and brings the perfect balance of experience and new innovative approaches to her classroom and to her team. As a teacher, Mrs. Fitch makes connections with all of her students and creates a relationship which allows them to thrive in her classroom. If you don't believe me, you can just ask the many students who continue to come back and thank her for all that she has done for them. Mrs. Fitch's positive impact on the SMS students goes beyond the students in just her ELA classes. She is also the advisor of the SMS After School GSA Club that meets several times a month. I took some time earlier this week to ask current students what they thought about Mrs. Fitch, and their responses were priceless. One student said, "Mrs. Fitch is my favorite teacher because she is so kind and cares about us." Another added, "She is always smiling, and it puts me in a great mood." Mrs. Fitch's positive impact on the school does not stop at her students. She is a mentor to many of her colleagues in the ELA department, on the Emerald team, and even across the building. She handles her job with commitment, professionalism, and passion. In fact, one of her colleagues summed it up perfectly, and I quote, "She is everything that is good about education and about Sparta. She has dedicated her career to her students of this community. She has done it with grace and dignity, but most importantly, with humor and humility. She is the epitome of everything that we strive to be as teachers: love of her subject and love for her students." At this time, I would like to introduce to you the Sparta Middle School Governor Educator of the Year, Mrs. Melissa Fitch.
Thank you, and congratulations to this year's recipients. The Helen Morgan School Educational Services Professional of the Year is one of our fantastic paraprofessionals, and her name is Ms. Franca Lucic. Paraprofessionals, or instructional aides, truly are the unsung, lesser-known heroes of our schools. I'm hopeful that tonight's recognition of Ms. Lucic serves not just as an acknowledgement of her efforts, but the efforts of all of our paraprofessionals who serve in many different capacities and, regardless of their role, approach our students with grace, compassion, and determination. As Franca has exhibited in her long-term service to the students at HMS, She knows how to maintain that delicate balance between supporting the students and providing them independence. An aide's role often varies from year to year. Sometimes they work in a whole class environment, working with multiple students, or sometimes they're assigned to 1 or 2 students. Regardless of her assigned role, Franca can be depended upon to fulfill her duties with grace, a delicate hand, the utmost professionalism, and yes, patience with me. One small anecdote that illustrates Franca's attributes, including patience with me, is the time that I, in typical style, decided on a whim at recess to take any interested students on a walk through the HMS Nature Trail. Well, wouldn't you know that one of Franca's students wanted to join me, and well, that meant Franca, probably wearing footwear that was not even close to being hiking appropriate, was coming too. And I don't know about any of you, but if you've ever taken 20, 10, and 11-year-olds on a hike, well, what we see as a path, they see as the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You know, they're gone. So I'm chasing them, and Franca's like following behind. Eventually, I catch up to these kids who are running through the trail, and I look back like a quarter of a mile, and there's Franca traversing a creek bed, stepping on top of rocks, pushing thorn bush branches out of her face. Not one complaint, just a smile. Definitely a need for a new pair of shoes. But Franca, I will tell you that tonight's award does not give you a gift card to DSW, but hopefully you will take it as a token of our appreciation and gratitude for your service to students of HMS, so thank you very much. That was kind, right? Thank you. Congratulations. Like Dr. Beck, I agree, this is always a great night. It's an opportunity to recognize the best of Sparta. I think it's important to illustrate that being an excellent teacher isn't about what you teach or the age of the students that you work with. It's about inspiring students to do their best, promoting student agency, teaching students to work collaboratively, think critically, and cultivating and encouraging our students' sense of curiosity and wonder. The HMS Educator of the Year is Amanda Spence, and she certainly exhibits those traits of highly effective teaching. When I reflect on Amanda's journey as a teacher at HMS, the characteristic that I think defines her journey is her wholeheartedness. And how she, to borrow from what I think is one of the world's most famous social workers, Brene Brown, she has learned to embrace vulnerability, and in doing so, make her students believe that they are all worthy of love and belonging. She does this on a daily basis by knowing who needs a hug and who needs a good joke, who can be pushed past academic discomfort and who just needs a break, asking colleagues for ideas and suggestions for how to improve, by taking instructional risks, by trying strategies that are either unfamiliar or maybe even unpopular, but know that it's best for students. In Brown's popular TED Talk on vulnerability, she describes 4 common characteristics of wholehearted people as having the courage to be imperfect, the compassion to be kind to themselves and others, having the understanding that connection is a result of authenticity, and 4th, the belief that what makes people vulnerable is what makes them beautiful. These are the characteristics and values that Amanda has worked tirelessly to incorporate into her classroom environment, that she brings out in her students, and that have guided her journey from a new teacher at HMS not too long ago to the celebrated colleague and teacher we are recognizing tonight. Congratulations, Amanda.
Good evening, everybody. Our Teacher of the Year from Mohawk Avenue School is Jackie Pador. Jackie is a special education teacher at Mohawk Avenue School. She is patient and caring, and she differentiates to meet the needs of all of her students at varying levels. This year, Ms. Pador came up with a program to help bring the regular education students into the special education world. She created a program at Mohawk Avenue School entitled Everybody Needs Somebody. Each week, students are selected from the classrooms to go into her room, and the students share their classroom and create bonds in the beautifully decorated, hands-on, activity-based classroom. Ms. Pador is respected by the staff at Mohawk Avenue School. She is willing to share an idea, listen to someone, help with any issue, and go the extra mile for someone in need. A defining feature of special education is that it regularly involves novelty, change, and uncertainty. Ms. Pador has the ability to respond effectively to all of these changes. One strategy that can help you become an adaptive teacher is to recognize first and foremost that one size does not fit all. Ms. Pador understands that students come from different backgrounds and have various strengths and limitations, and she is flexible with all of her lessons. Special education teachers need to be highly organized, just like mainstream teachers. Organization skills are essential when planning classroom activities and balancing the needs of your students. Ms. Pador plans well to cater to every child's needs. Students are encouraged to perform well with a tidy classroom, set routines, and everything in the right place. Empathy is the ability to feel what someone else feels. As a teacher, Ms. Pador has empathy to help her students learn to navigate the world independently. As an educator, you must never restrict yourself to learning and working towards professional development. Ms. Pador is a role model for her students and someone they look up to. She continues to improve herself professionally whenever an opportunity arises. Another important quality of a special education teacher is creativity. All the students have different learning styles. Some are audio learners, while others may be visual or kinesthetic learners. Teachers must have the ability to adapt their lessons in a way that it plays to each child's strengths. This is Ms. Pador. I'm not done yet, but thank you. Yes, Ms. Pador. In conclusion, I want to share a quote from Joe Martin. What most people don't know is that most special education teachers are really angels disguised as extraordinary humans. Jackie, we thank you for being our angel at Mohawk Avenue School, and congratulations.
Good evening. My name is Peter Miller. I have the honor of being the principal of Alpine Elementary School, or pre-K to second grade. And I have the pleasure of speaking about two women this evening who are huge assets to our school. Our first one, she doesn't want recognition, but she most certainly deserves it. Our Educational Support Professional of the Year is Mrs. Sue Lang. She's been in education for 26 years. We have the benefit of having her in Sparta for the last 6 years. I was on the interview committee, and I don't think we could have gotten a better person. Talking with her, she loves working with our special education population, and that's kind of her niche. She works with Mrs. Gast's class, and every day I get to witness the extraordinary things that she does. And a lot of times as teachers, you don't really hear what people talk about you. Sometimes you don't want to hear. But I'll only give you the good stuff, Mrs. Lang. She's dedicated, she's loyal, she's an incredibly important member of our staff, always willing to pitch in and help, always has a positive attitude, has a hard work ethic, always willing to try new interventions and supports. She's very patient with the students as well as the teachers and me, so I appreciate that. Forms a trusting relationship with all students, has compassion and love for the children of all abilities, brings out the kids' strengths, fosters their success through true connections. It is an honor to work with her and watch her support our students on a daily basis. Thank you for everything you do, Mrs. Lang. The next person is Alpine's Governor Teacher of the Year. And it's hard to believe because this person has never won it, but this is probably the most meaningful recognition. 50 years in education. I've I've been in education for 26. I don't know if I can do another 24. Mrs. Judy Slavin. 50 years in education. 35 of those have been here in Sparta. Currently, she teaches second grade, but throughout her career, she's taught third grade, fifth grade, and gifted and talented of multiple grade levels. Even a couple years ago, I'm guesstimating 46 years into her career, she got a master's as a reading specialist. So she's a lifelong learner. It's just not a one and done. Even 46 years into her career, knowing that she's at the tail end, she's still trying to make herself better. Speaking to her, why do you love teaching for 50 years? She feels like she can make a difference, one child and one class at a time. That's why she's a teacher. Those kids are known as slavenettes. If you walk into her class, they start singing a song and a welcome song to any visitor. They have DFTS all over the room, as well as now all over our school. Don't forget to smile. She's always positive to her kids and all of the students in the school. They have the Slavenet Gazette. It's a little classroom. And I've read, when I was talking to her different colleagues, but also old students, this kept coming up, the Slavenet Gazette, a little classroom newspaper that they learn to write and talk about and really benefits their classroom. And that's one of her ways that she gets with her kids. Talking to a former student, and if it's okay, I'd like to read this because I think this sums up everything with Mrs. Slavin. The impact Mrs. Slavin had on her. The true impact of my time as a student with Mrs. Slavin is what is ingrained in me, is how she made me feel as a student. She believed in me. She pushed me beyond what I even thought I was capable to do. She made me believe I was a reader, even though this was a subject I struggled in. Although I had a tough time in school, I never knew it in her classroom because she made me feel like I belonged and that I could do anything. She showed me the importance of hard work and putting your heart into everything you do, because it is through that love and dedication that true learning occurs. This is from a student who then 20 years later became her colleague as a teacher. So they're still talking about her, about being a slavenette 20 years later. She's made a huge difference. Just imagine teaching for 50 years and everything that she saw, and if you're a teacher, everything is kind of cyclical. We used to do that way back when. Now it kind of came back again. Everything having to adapt her teaching ways to meet the current demands of the educational world and her students. Changes like included moving from overhead projectors with transparencies to using smartboards. So a lot of the people think about your educations and what you did then and what it is kind of looks like now. It's totally different. Using chalk and a chalkboard to dry erase markers and a whiteboard. From paper gradebook with tiny little boxes to using Linkit and Genesis. From having her students do round robin reading to individualized guided reading instruction, and from attending formal face-to-face meetings to now just using Google Meets. It's totally different. Things have changed in the last 50 years. She has met these challenges head on and has implemented them in the classroom like she has been doing them for years, while still providing the best educational experience for her kids. It is an honor to call Mrs. Slavin a colleague, but I must say, this is a very well-deserved honor for Mrs. Slavin, because when we first gave it to her, I think she could have retired then. This was like the most important day of her life, because I don't know if she wanted to hit 50 years, that was her goal, but that's an amazing accomplishment of 50 years. Mrs. Judy Slavin.
We can do it here if you want, to get close together. You want to go? Want to go in between the tables here real quick? Real quick, we're just going to go in between the tables.
Yeah. Go ahead. We're just gonna loop around the side of the table. I agree, totally.
That way. Squeeze in, squeeze in. Jump up.
He's gonna do everything. He's gonna do the student council stuff and then do this as part of a board. Chad, you were able to get that stuff in here? Yes. There you go. She said she was, but I think she's having a good year. She might want to stay.
She was on the jump the last 3
No, not her.
I remember her retired. I think no one even made a comment.
I think we made a comment that night. She can always,
But I'm
she
saying,
can always
like,
withdraw it.
but I'm saying, I thought she was on the jump. Oh, yeah.
That's okay.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
positive.
Yeah, yeah, I thought she was.
Yes, I think she did announce it. But
Yeah,
I think
yeah, yeah.
I think she's
That's
having
what I was
second thoughts. Yeah.
She's one that you made, like, name,
Yes.
like this year was supposed to be.
All right, we'll do that.
I was just waiting for everyone to leave, you know. Okay, moving on. We're going to go over to Chad for the student representative report.
All right, I'm very excited to announce that we have a lot of news today. Starting off, we are going to be holding a charity concert on March 31st at 7 p.m. at the Sparta High School. You can buy tickets at the door and only at the door, and it is cash only. And it's going to be featuring only Sparta High School bands, and it's going to be a really exciting event. I hope you can all be there. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the Alpine book readings that have been taking place. Last week, we read The Little Brute Truck. Everyone got to participate this time, not just Miss Alusha, and it was excellent. We got great student engagement. The kindergartners were asking very smart questions, and it was a huge success for both parties. And our next reading is going to be on March 6th, where we're going to be reading The Day the Crowns Quit. Now, in regards to the Sparta Township Council, Miss Lucia and Mr. Josefchek have been meeting with Mayor Chiarello. Similar to how we have a student liaison position for the Board of Education, we are looking into creating some sort of position for the Sparta Town Council. The first meeting that we're going to be attending as a student council, just some few representatives from all grades, is going to be during May, and we are currently getting the prerequisites out of the way. And now on to DECA. DECA students are going to be moving on to the Atlantic City State Competition next week. So let's hope that we can have an excellent competition and have as many students go to nationals as we did last year. We had a great turnout last year, so let's have a great turnout this year. And lastly, the Sparta Advisory Board has been continuing meetings and recently had a very productive meeting with Dr. Beck, Ms. Rossi, Ms. Collier, and Mr. Knapp. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. Joanne?
Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Ms. Sealander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Okay, now for the superintendent report.
Thank you. I would like to start by flashing back to last Board of Ed meeting, actually. Last month, one of our residents spoke very positively during public comment about our Sparta Middle School staff members. I'm not sure if Mr. Clark realized it at the time, but those positive comments had a major impact on those staff members that he mentioned. In the field of education, we are often inundated with negative comments and feedback and rarely receive positive feedback. As a result of Mr. Clark's comments, some staff members at Sparta Middle School have started a Pay It Forward initiative where they plan on attending the board meetings in their respective towns and making positive public comments about their respective districts and staff members during those meetings. Mr. Chiburi shared this information during one of our recent admin meetings, and I thought I wanted to share that tonight at this board meeting as well. On this evening's agenda, you will find a resolution to accept the donation of LifeVac devices from the Mavericks Legacy organization. Mavericks Legacy is a nonprofit organization started by a local family in memory of their son, Maverick. Mavericks Legacy donates LifeVac devices to first responders all over the area and recently made donations to the Sparta Police Department. Officer Favaro put us in touch with Mavericks Legacy, who will be donating the LifeVac devices to each of our schools. We will formally accept the devices next week, but I want to publicly thank Mavericks Legacy this evening as they are on the board agenda. Speaking of donations and grants, I would also like to thank the Sparta Education Foundation. Also on this evening's agenda is a grant from them, and they'll be making a notable donation of over $32,000 for replacement of computers in the engineering, architecture, and 3D printing classroom at Sparta High School. As always, the hard work and dedication of our Sparta Education Foundation is greatly appreciated. The Sparta High School Spring Musical. Our talented students at Sparta High School will be performing The Little Mermaid for their spring musical this year. Tickets are on sale now for their performances during the first weekend of March. The showtimes are Friday, March 2nd at 7 p.m., Saturday, March 3rd at 7 p.m., and Sunday, March 4th at 2 p.m. I have my tickets for opening night and look forward to once again watching our talented students perform. A note on the March Board of Ed meeting. I already informed the board, but also wanted to share it with the school community, that it'll be necessary to move our March board meeting up one week to March 16th. That meeting is where our preliminary budget is approved to send to the County Department of Education, and the submission for that is due on March 20th, so we had to move the meeting before March 20th, so we moved it up a week. On to some athletic recognitions. For middle school basketball, I would like to congratulate both our girls and boys middle school basketball teams who both won the county tournaments in just their first year of existence. Not a bad start for those programs. And to keep the dominance going for boys and girls, the Sparta High School boys and girls basketball teams, both of them won their Hunterdon, Warren, Sussex tournaments last Friday evening at Centenary University. More on girls basketball. Also, in our basketball milestones, congratulations to Bailey Chapman. She scored her 1,000th point on February 13th. It's really an amazing achievement when you have one basketball player score 1,000 points at any given time. This particular girls basketball team has 3 1,000-point scorers, so that's absolutely unheard of. So congratulations to her and them. And this is hot off the press from yesterday. The NJAC All-Conference honors came out for basketball just yesterday. For boys basketball, first team All-Conference was Nick Ryan. Second team All-Conference was Finn Mell. And honorable mention was Matt Maresca. For the girls, first team all-conference was Ali Sweeney and Bailey Chapman. Second team was Mason Munier. Honorable mention was Riley Munier. And Bryn McCurry received first team special recognition. Two more winter sports, ice hockey, honors. Rylan Gibbons was first team Halverson Division ice hockey. Adam Stefancic was second team Halverson Division ice hockey. And Rylan Gibbons was MVP of the Edward Halverson Memorial. He won the MVP, Edward Halverson Memorial Award. Congratulations to the hockey team. And lastly, and certainly not least, is wrestling. Dan Trappy won District 3 Coach of the Year. District 3 champion, we had Sebastian Gomez at 165 pounds. Bradley Main's Connor White, Logan Hironenko, Blake Winberry, Anthony Petrock, Ryan Hironenko are all advancing to regionals. And Paige Weiss earned second place in the girls' Region 1. And that is my superintendent report. I will turn it over to Ms. Rossi for curriculum instruction.
Great, thank you. Good evening. I want to start by sharing some information, as requested, regarding how our district acknowledges national celebrations, including Heritage and Awareness Months. We began this work by aligning our practices with Harvard's Heritage and Awareness calendar. From there, we met as a district leadership team and formed a specific committee to brainstorm different planning options. We decided a shared approach made the most sense. So with that being said, some Heritage and Awareness celebrations are organized at the building level, while others are planned at the district level. We are even working with the Culture and Climate Committee to seek community participation and partnership in planning at least one event each year. In the future, we'll rotate how the events are planned for the school year. For example, in the month of November, Native American Heritage Month was led at the building level, while Acknowledging Veterans Day was organized at the district level. In January, Martin Luther King was celebrated at the building level, while Black History Month was organized at the district level. Some events this month included interactive bulletin boards and posters in each building, quotes that were read over the morning announcements each day, and shared classroom activities. In the next few months, we're preparing to share out our plans to honor Women's History Month and Autism Awareness Month. We look forward to continuing this work as a complement to the high-quality instruction our students receive regularly. Next, I'd like to share and provide some feedback and information regarding the book review process, which is one of the curriculum items on the agenda later tonight. The process that was implemented followed the district policy and regulation for grievances 9130. The superintendent and I collaborated on the formation of a book review committee as part of the regulation guidance. We met as a committee of 7 members to unpack the complaint received and to compare the text to the resource policy based on objectives and criteria that were set forth. After a deliberation that lasted more than 2 hours, the committee was unable to reach a unanimous decision. A final recommendation and determination was shared by each member of the committee following that meeting. A report was shared with the board, which included a summary of all events and the decided outcome. 5 of 7 committee members, which represent the majority of the team, determined that the upside of unrequited should remain in the Sparta Middle School library for 8th grade students only. The rationale for this recommendation is that the library system that's been in place for a long time has worked as intended to ensure that only 8th grade students have access to check out more mature content. The book aligns with district policy and provides an opportunity to learn important lessons through the lens of the main character, who doesn't compromise who she is, even in response to the pressure she feels from her peers. The main character overcomes real insecurities and ultimately learns to accept herself as a result from her experiences and her newfound confidence. This book integrates LGBTQ characters along with their experiences and wisdom. This book is classified as a young adult title and includes more mature language and themes, which is why an 8 is included near the barcode for selection. When looking at young adult criteria, it's important to note that the age of the reader should be between 13 and 18. The length is generally 50 to 75,000 words. Content restrictions include profanity, graphic violence, romance, and sexuality, except for eroticism, are allowable, though not required. The age of the protagonist, or the main character, is between 14 and 18 years old.
The mindset in young adult readers is the young adult hero discovers how they fit into the world beyond their friends and family. They spend more time reflecting on what happens and analyzing the meaning of things. And the voice is usually told through the first-person point of view. The author is a best-selling author and an award-winning author who has a first book that was in the library and that this was a sequel or a second version of. The author is a clinical psychologist who specializes in work with children and teens. As we turn over the report and decisions to the Board of Education, we just want to reiterate that when we're looking at materials, as per Regulation and Policy 9130, no challenge material may be removed solely because it presents ideas that may be unpopular or offensive to some. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Moving on, communications. Joanne, do we have any? No? Okay. Delegate liaison reports.
I have two things. The first one is the 9th annual Food and Wine Pairing event that's being put on by the Sparta Education Foundation as a fundraiser is taking place on March 4th at the barn at Hillside Park in Andover. I think as of this morning, there were still some tickets left available for sale. If those tickets are sold, they are still accepting sponsorships for the event, and those sponsorship levels start at $125. And then I have one more for C3, but I gotta pull it up. I was not able to attend the meeting, but Lauren Collier did, and she just wanted me to report back that it was a really productive meeting with a presentation from the College of St. Elizabeth on the ongoing work that we have with them and how we have both district and building goals for the socio-emotional wellness of the staff and students in each building. And the building principals are going to join the upcoming meetings to discuss their specific buildings. So if anyone wants to attend these meetings or join, the more participation, the better. And the next meeting is going to be in March or April. It hasn't been determined yet, so that'll be announced when it's known.
With the town council liaison, we haven't met yet this year. We have a planned meeting for next week, so hopefully we can report out on something come March. We look forward to working with them in the future. Anyone else? No?
I just want to give a quick update, and Dr. Beck and I actually spoke about this, but Sussex County Educational Services Commission, they've now hired, they're fully staffed with speech therapists, which is great. There are now 4 brand-new speech therapists. I know that's something that our district utilizes, so lessen our burden a little bit there, so good news there. And we'll be having the budget meeting coming up very shortly.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, we're going to move on to public comment number 1. Public comments are invited on matters pertaining only to action items at this time. Please state the action number as well as your name, municipality, and group affiliation if appropriate for the record. Each participant will be received 3 minutes to speak. All statements should be directed to me as presiding officer. The board or administration may or may not respond to any questions or comments after the conclusion of public participation. You can, it's up to you.
Yeah, it's okay. It was okay. Yeah. It was okay.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Mike Gottesman. I am a retired attorney from Wayne and the founder of the New Jersey Public Education Coalition, and I've been asked to speak tonight by members of your district. I was prepared to come up here tonight to remind all of you of your duties under your oath of sworn to office, your ethical duties and your legal duties in regard to 16.1 and the discussion of the book that was requested to be removed. And I am very happy to see that I don't have to remind you of that. The report given by Board Member Rossi shows me that you have all done exactly what you are required to do as members of this board, that you abided by your oath of office to faithfully, impartially, and justly perform the duties of your office, and to uphold and enforce the laws and regulations of the State Board of Ed, as well as abiding by your own policies and regulations, 9130 and 2550, I think, 25, whichever one, 2550. The demand for removal was apparently made by one individual, but you should understand that it is part of a national campaign of censorship, and I congratulate you on realizing that a censorship agenda is not representative of your community. Removal of that book would effectively be a denial of parents' rights, the rights of those parents who wish to have their children have access to that book. And you've recognized, as stated by the board member, that no challenged material may be removed solely because it presents ideas that are unpopular or offensive to some. So in sum, I was going to implore you to do your duty, abide by your oath, and meet your ethical obligations, and think carefully about the actions that you were taking. But in fact, I want to congratulate you all. You should be proud of the manner in which you handled this, and I look forward to meeting you personally and congratulating each of you in person. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jen Russ, and I'm representing the New Jersey Association of School Librarians, or NJSL. Your book discussion tonight involves one parent of one child seeking to remove access to one title for every child in the school. This drastic act is improper and unnecessary. Mechanisms exist for a parent to assert their authority over their child's reading selections, including establishing and enforcing expectations at home. If parents need help fulfilling that responsibility, they can request the school librarian make a note in their student's library record that a particular child not be checked out to their child, particular title, excuse me. But no parent has the right to make those decisions for other parents and children. Students' right to make their own reading choices is so essential that the United States Supreme Court affirmed it in the 1982 case, Island Trees versus Pico. In that decision, the court described school libraries as centers for voluntary inquiry and dissemination of ideas. Therefore, the court ruled a board cannot restrict the availability of library books simply because its members disagree with the content. The Supreme Court ruling is echoed in your policy, 9130, which states that no challenged material may be removed solely because it presents ideas that may be unpopular or offensive to some. We at NJSL urge you to uphold that policy tonight. We also encourage you to recognize the record-shattering numbers of censorship attempts sweeping the country. PEN America found that more than 80% of the challenges over the last 18 months, including tonight's, target books featuring characters from diverse racial backgrounds, sexual orientations, and gender identities. The organized nature of these attacks is evident based on the frequency particular titles are targeted simultaneously across states. Same for the tactics used to challenge these titles, which include using the false frame of obscenity, demonizing library staff, employing exaggerated claims of inappropriate content, and repeating isolated passages out of context.
1 minute.
Ignoring the larger value of the work. The value inherent in contemporary young adult literature is its ability to allow readers to see themselves and others from all walks of life. Limiting students' exposure to such diversity is harmful and educational malpractice. In 2017, the New Jersey Department of Education established self-awareness and social awareness among the core competencies for K-12 students. And State Bill 1569, enacted in 2019, mandates that boards adopt inclusive instructional materials that portray the cultural diversity of society, including LGBTQ+ people. NJZL urges Sparta Township Public Schools to fulfill its educational mission. Reject ploys that lead to exclusion. Support your school librarians in curating diverse collections. Prove your commitment to students' right to read. Retain the upside of unrequited. Thank you.
Jennifer Granner, 22 Longview Road. Just some information in advance of your vote, I'm anticipating. Our school media centers have basically been operated by the same staff members consistently for at least the past 7 years. Taryn Gallagher Doremus has been at Alpine for 13 years, in Sparta as an educator for 14. Heather Frieda has been at Mohawk Avenue for 7, in Sparta as an educator for 27. Stephanie Bernardo has been in the Helen Morgan Media Center for 16 years and a Sparta educator for 27. Kelly Kiff has been in the SMS Media Center for 7 years, but in Sparta for 11. Prior to Mrs. Kiff, the Media Center specialist was Jennifer Caputo for 9 years, who has been in Sparta an educator for 25 years. And then Angela DeLucia has been in the High School Media Center for 11 years and in Sparta an educator for 21. Among them, there have been 3 Governor Educators of the Year Award winners, Mrs. Bernardo twice, Ms. Gallagher, and Mrs. Kiff, 4 if you count Mrs. Caputo, who was also a finalist in the 2020 State Governor Educator of the Year Awards. The average of all the current Media Center specialists ends up being a little over 10 years. Within those 10 years, we've achieved a 98% graduation rate from the high school. We've seen numerous students go on to very bright futures in higher education, many Ivy League schools, 4-year deals with highly competitive universities as athletes, technical fields, join the armed forces. Sparta, you all know, has been highly regarded as far as student achievement for at least those 10 years, but even prior to that. And that's all happened during the time that these women have served as a Media Center specialist, selecting book titles that they deem appropriate to offer all of those students. Why would any of you mess with that level of success now? In fact, all of the years of experience the people I mentioned combined as educators in Sparta totals 125 years. You should listen to them. You should support them. They clearly know what they're talking about because the proof is in the incredible students we continue to turn out. They're a big part of that success, and I'd be willing to bet if you could ask them, you'd be encouraged by how many students would mention them specifically. You should be proud of that and show it. We have far more important things happening in the school district that desperately need your attention over this. Something that has been operating smoothly and without incident for decades. Our elementary buildings are aging every day. Teachers continue to resign or retire, leaving vacant positions that are proving difficult to fill, making coverage a huge problem. Out-of-district placement costs and legal bills are spiraling out of control. But tonight, you decided to bring attention to one of the things that is actually working. As a parent of a preschooler facing 15+ more years of having a student in this district, I truly hope that you get your priorities in order starting tonight, sooner than later, because the decisions that you make starting tonight could change everything Sparta has worked to achieve, and it's up to you all as to whether or not you want your names to be associated with that change. Thank you and good luck.
Caitlin Gagnon, Sparta. So there are many books in the middle school library that contain graphic depictions or references to sex, rape, abortion, and even suicide, but a complaint has been lodged against one that happens to be on several lists of banned books across the country, but arguably most of all, one that happens to have an LGBTQ sticker displayed on its binding. This book is not being targeted because of sexual references or for its use of the word orgy. This book is not the first to be challenged in our district, and like Ghost Boys and Queer, it's likely not going to be the last, because these 3 texts provide insight and a point of view that so many people seem to be fearful of. But pulling from the PICO precedent, which was already mentioned, books cannot be removed simply because someone dislikes the ideas contained within. There must be a constitutionally justifiable reason for doing so. And make no mistake, if you remove, relocate, censor, or pause this book, you're banning it. The right to equitable access in public education is as fundamental to democracy as the right to free speech, and when you ban books, you trample both. While the board has not yet banned this title, you have sent a clear message to the Sparta public by entertaining this challenge. So we have a message in return. We support our professionals who have already vetted this book and every other resource in our library. We believe students should have the freedom to access this book. But most of all, we denounce ignorance, fear tactics, and veiled homophobia. We should be discussing the fact that our Alpine Schools building fire code, not classroom size, but our actual building's maximum occupancy code, is being violated every single day that we send our children into school. We should discuss the inexcusable bleeding out of our district's budget and your plans to address it. We can and should discuss the pursuit of the AP African American Studies course currently being offered by the College Board. But instead, here we are, fighting book bans like we were fighting demands for lesson plans last month. And meanwhile, you're fighting too. You're fighting to add the sex ed curriculum to our district homepage because apparently 3 clicks is too many. I've been saying this for 3 years, too many. Banning books and resources is not a part of your job. You have no right to censor this book or any other. Parents do have the right to send the librarian an email and make specific requests for their child. But demanding that public education caters to a subjective set of personal beliefs by removing this resource from the library and students is as wrong as it sounds. If you don't like French fries, you don't demand to remove all of the potatoes from the cafeteria. I encourage our board to focus on the performance of our students, how you plan to fix the failing budget, and the elementary buildings that we expect our teachers to perform in while they simultaneously battle being undermined and underpaid. And also, I just want to note, Juliet Sanchez, because I have time, won Best Delegate at the Model UN, and this was the first Sparta student to ever earn that award, so I think we should give it up for her too.
Good evening. My name is Daniel O'Malley. I moved up here to Sparta 6 years ago. My son is an 8th grader. He came to the public schools in 1st grade. I moved up here from Kearney, North Arlington, that area, to get away from the crowded school districts and all this other stuff, okay? My son is an 8th grader now. He has a hard time reading. Okay, so I don't know what these people are talking about, how all this media stuff and all this is so great for these kids, because I don't know where my kids are failing. He has an IEP, okay? We did everything that these teachers asked of us, and every year they have a different case manager, so he just gets lost in everything. Okay, this book is the least of our problems in this town. Our kindergartners are in trailers still at Alpine. That should be the #1 thing on this agenda, okay? Our art teachers are walking around in carts and everything else like that. But that being said, this book, I was gonna use the actual word because, sir, you wouldn't want your 13-year-old using the F word 61 times in front of you, would you? Because that's in there. There's a very descriptive thing, if you don't mind me reading, because this is in the book.
Well, you know something, we have some very young children in the front, so
It's
very
not that
young.
bad. She could put on her earmuffs if she needs to. Once she spent an entire drive to the mall explaining to Cassie what a so-called doggy lipstick, and it gets very graphic from there.
And that's why I respectfully request.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there, though. So what is this all talking about? The orgasm. There's drug references. Okay, you want to explain to your kids what ecstasy is at their age? Come on. They know, okay. I don't know how you raise your kids. I don't raise my kids that way. I teach my kids how to be respectful, okay? And there are other problems in this town that need to get fixed in our school district. We should focus on that, but this book has no place.
1 minute.
We're talking about restrictions on books. Should we put Playboys in there? Or Hustler magazines or something like that? Is that okay? Is that where we're gonna go with this next? Is the Bible allowed in that library or no? It is? Okay, all right. Well, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
If they continue to yell at you, guys, ladies and gentlemen, you gotta stop calling out.
Good evening, everybody. I'm the evil parent that they're alluding to. Thank you. I just want to make it clear it has nothing to do with the LGBT.
Can you just, please?
Oh, Christina Carina, sorry. It has nothing to do with the LGBT community. If you read the book, you'd understand that. There's one gay character in the book, and she is not the main protagonist. The main character is Molly. What? Do you guys
Ladies
always
and
let
gentlemen,
them?
can you please stop calling out? We ask that everybody be respectful of the speaker, regardless of whether you agree with what they're saying or not. Thank you. You can
I just want to
continue.
be clear. The book in question uses the F word 61 times. It says shit 59 times. It says orgy 5 times, orgasm 7 times, underage drinking 20 times. It mentions the use of pills 3 times. It uses Zoloft once.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stop calling out. And just be mindful, ma'am, just like
Yeah,
I said.
know, I understand. You got me to stop talking once already. It discusses the importance of shaved genitalia, shaved buttholes. It is centered around a young girl named Molly, but as the book introduces her, her name is Molly like the drug. She struggles with weight issues and feels the peer pressure to lose her virginity like all of her friends. Molly explains in the book, a part of me always thought it was some kind of a secret compliment when someone called you a slut. It meant you were having sex, which meant people wanted to have sex with you. Because being a slut, it just meant you were normal. Much of the book revolves around her wanting to understand what an orgasm feels like, because lack of orgasms aren't something to envy. And she often refers to herself as a naive, sexless child. But I hear it's like sneezing, she says. It's like Super Mario Brothers. It's when he eats the leaf and then he runs around and he's flying. And she zips her hands up into the air while Will and Max start laughing. That's sort of beautiful, she said. But Olivia, that's not what it's like. Orgasms are not like video games. How is this appropriate for children? As per SMS administration, the books labeled with an 8 are integrated throughout the entire library among the other titles. How am I unreasonable for asking you guys to put these books in a selective place? Nobody asked for a book ban.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
If you can't stay in
please.
this room and act like adults, you'll be asked to leave. Thank you.
As SMS administration said, the books labeled with an 8 are integrated throughout the library among all the other titles. This is a practice that has been utilized for a long time within the middle school library. With that said, there's not a list of books specifically identified by the 8 sticker that can be shared with parents. That's unacceptable.
1 minute.
It's possible for any student to have one of these books in their possession while in the library, but since there's no library period, the amount of time that the student could have in that book would be limited. As you know, books containing the 8 would not be able to be signed out. However, they could have access to them. All I'm asking is for you guys to put greater restrictions on them. None of my emails said book ban. You guys know this. Challenging a book that compares orgasms to video games for children is not something I'm gonna apologize for. I wanna be clear that I question the policy surrounding this book, and that's completely within my right as a parent and as a taxpayer. The behavior demonstrated by everybody for me doing so is completely unacceptable. Since questioning the guidelines surrounding this book, 2 of your staff members have organized this protest. They're very polite, they're all here. They have completely spun the narrative to say that this is trying to ban books. They have shared my private information on a public forum. Is that it?
It is time. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Sir, if you can have a seat, we have a speaker.
Could I just
No.
one quick thing, because
No.
I didn't use all my time.
Sir,
We're going to let the other people speak.
Okay,
There's
can I
someone
finish
ready-
my time?
Let's
again?
see how we do. Let's see what the... Okay.
You
got
can
other people.
there's another public session after this one.
Hi, Sasha Nelson. I know that not all of you have students that are in the middle school yet, but just in relation to like the drug thing, we learned about drugs in 6th grade health class. That's what it was kind of focusing on. I remember watching a movie that was kind of like about a girl spiraling down a addiction thing. I don't remember the name of the movie, but I remember that that's what we talked about. And then in 7th grade, I believe that we were given the sex talk. And 8th grade, that's when COVID hit. So that's just the sequence of events that happen in middle school health class, just in case your students haven't made it or your children haven't made it there yet. I just wanted to clarify that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, you want to? Yes. Last one.
Thank you. Let me reintroduce myself. Mike Gottesman. I'm from Wayne, New Jersey, and I'm the founder of New Jersey Public Education Coalition. I just want to make sure, because I know that the board is going to vote the right way on this. They have the recommendation of the committee, a 5-2 vote. But I want you to understand clearly that this is a national campaign of censorship. And people are within your community manipulating people. And how do I know this? Because there is a website called booklooks.org. Booklooks.org puts itself out there as being a legitimate website, when in fact it was invented and created by an organization I'm sure you're familiar with, Moms for Liberty, and we all know what their agenda is. And how do I know that people within this community who want you to remove these books are being manipulated by this organization and the website? Because just as the speaker in favor of removal spoke and cherry-picked the same quotations from that website and the same list of the number of times that certain words were mentioned in the book, that's how I know, and that's how you should know. And as members of this board, do not let yourself and this community be manipulated by an organization that has no connection with this community, has never been in this community, and has never stepped foot in a single one of your schools.
Hi, Anthony Hutchison, Sparta. Just a little bit different view on books and censorship and different things. I feel that our community needs a little bit more tolerance, and tolerance needs to be taught. Tolerance needs to be educated, and I applaud the school system for helping my son personally in stuff that he has dealt with. I think more people need to understand that Sparta is a place where there are issues like my son being called a wetback, a Mexican, a Muslim, being told to make this other kid a taco. This type of behavior is around, and tolerance really does need to be taught, and we need to address it and address it as best we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Maria Chacon. I am coming from Dover, New Jersey. I am a queer parent with a queer child, and it's been alarming to see New Jersey schools being hit because there's LGBTQ children in there. They're being attacked by the books that they read, teachers being accepting, teachers being inclusive. Well, there are parents and there are people that love the LGBTQ community and the rights to have books like this. So what happened today is I downloaded the book and I'm in chapter 2 reading it with my child. Right now, so far, there is nothing wrong with the book. It's talking about inclusivity. It's talking about self-awareness. The character is talking about that they see themselves fat and they wonder how other people see them. This is normal thinking. We have fentanyl killing our children outside. We have social media, attacks, bullying, things happening in school. A book should not be banned. This is very stupid. Thank you.
Hi. Hi. I just wanted to add a little bit of a student perspective to this. And Juliet Sanchez. Sorry. So I'm someone who read this book in middle school at the age in 8th grade, and I have to say it didn't convince me to do things that were described in it. It just as someone who was in the halls of middle school in recent years, this is what kids are talking about. kids have access to the internet. They have access to all these things. They are talking about these type of subjects and things. Wouldn't you rather them hear it from a book in a perspective that's going to give them something more educational, something that's going to, you know, introduce them to, sorry. Something in a book that's going to show them, you know, this character isn't endorsing things. It's just talking about things that they are hearing about in the hallways every day. If you can have a conversation, you want to see middle schoolers have a conversation, I promise you, they will curse, most likely, many of them. They will talk about things that are considered to be inappropriate because that's what they want to be a part of. They're growing up. They want to, you know, a lot of middle schoolers want to see things that are older. So maybe it's better to hear it from a book instead of on the internet, somewhere where they're getting a full depiction of this in a more educational way. Thank you.
Okay, if we have no one else, I'll make a motion to close.
Looks like there's another person.
Ah, go figure.
Almost. Nice try. She always waits like I would not let anybody else come up again, no, Kurt. We said we have a huge agenda.
Sorry, Kurt, I won't speak long. I'm Jen Hamilton, 37 Holland Circle. I just want to touch on two things that were mentioned today. The first one is this idea that rather than banning this book, we're asking that a restriction be placed on it. And so I want to pose a question to the board for consideration when they're making their decision, hopefully in line with the recommendation of the committee that vetted this and went through the board policy sanctioned process for dissemination of resources, right? But if you limit access to a resource and the student who needs it most is not willing to go that extra step to like pass through scrutiny, because as this topic can be very sensitive when people are discovering who they are and thinking about the things that they, you know, may not want people looking down on them for, or feeling like people are looking down on them for, then aren't you essentially banning the book for that student? So that's one thing I'd like for you to consider. The other thing I'd like for you to consider is the fact that there is an age restriction on this book. Written on the back of the book, it says grade 8. So any student who takes that book off the shelf and reviews that book sitting in a library knows that they are reviewing a material that they are not supposed to be reviewing. And should we change our entire library setup because a student is breaking the rules? We have rules for a reason. If you don't want your kids to break the rules, tell them not to break the rules. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to close public comment number 1?
Motion.
Christine, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yeah.
I just want to make a comment pertaining to the Alpine School and the crowding that exists at the Alpine School. While I understand the point that was being made, I don't argue the point that was being made, that Alpine is crowded. It is not in violation of fire code. The numbers that were shared came from a long-range facilities plan, and a long-range facilities plan is for planning purposes. It does not necessarily line up to fire code, so we're not violating fire code.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. We need a motion to move personnel and policy 15.1 to 15.28.
Motion.
Ready, second?
Second.
Vanessa, thank you. Joanne?
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Moving on to curriculum and instruction. We're going to make a motion to move on 16.1 to 16.9. Before moving forward, as per policy 9130, the board does have the authority to take action on any item that is on the agenda this evening. With that being said, is there any motion?
I make a motion to accept the committee's finding in its entirety. for 16.1.
So the book, just to clarify, the book review.
The book review, 16.1, I make a motion to accept the committee's recommendation in its entirety.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Joanne?
Ms. Keeling?
No.
Mr. Knapp?
No.
Ms. McMichael?
No.
Ms. Pitzer?
No.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
No.
Motion does not carry.
Before moving forward, are there any other motions?
Yes, I would like to make a motion. I would like to propose that we move the challenged book, The Upside of Unrequited, from the middle school to the high school effective tomorrow. Library. I apologize, library.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Walter, Joanne?
Ladies and gentlemen, please, it's very hard to hear when people are calling out. Thank you.
Ms. Keeling?
Are we discussing
Yes.
it?
Hang on.
Yes, discussion.
Discussion.
Sorry.
So, I mean, what
So
I want to
sorry.
know is, I want to know why everyone who voted no is going against not only the majority of the committee members, but the majority of the committee members that consisted of educational and literary experts. It's our job to serve an entire community, so I just want to know why you're voting against the educational and literacy experts that were on the committee that agreed that this should stay where it is.
I'm happy to speak to.
I mean, I'm asking everyone.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so if you want to go ahead first.
I would like to, thank you. I did read the book in its entirety, and the suggestion to relocate it to the high school really has nothing to do with the specific content as much as I felt that it did not meet policy number 1 in 2530 resource materials, maturation level of the student. The book is recommended by the author for grades 9 to 12, ages 14 to 18. And also in the regulation section of policy 2530, number 2, it requires the books to be appropriate to the level of the user. So again, to reiterate, that would be my reasoning.
Any other comments?
I feel the exact same way. It says clearly. Excuse me? Yeah. I feel the same way. The book says 14 plus. In my knowledge, growing up in the school district, 14 plus starts at freshman year of high school. That is my reasoning.
I mean, the report that we have says 13, which is 8th grade in the committee report.
I'm not sure what report you
The
have.
committee
I pulled
report,
up the
it says
book.
13.
If you look at Amazon, even listed on Amazon, that it's 14 plus.
If you look at the report that we received from the committee, it says
Ladies and gentlemen, it's very
age
hard to
of
hear.
reader
Please, I would like to. We all want to hear what the board members have to say. Please, go ahead, Wendy.
For a young adult title is 13 through 18. So I do think that there are some 8th graders who this applies to, and I think it's inappropriate to be taking this away when it is our job to serve an entire community.
May I ask what you feel is the educational benefit of the book?
I mean, I read it in its entirety.
As did I.
And anything that's showed in isolation, like these certain words or not given appropriate context, the main thing of this story is about a young girl who is uncomfortable in her skin, who is self-conscious, who is worried about what people think about her, and she has this progression of a character where she comes out feeling confident in herself and proud of herself. And I think that gets lost when you're just throwing around words like orgy, sex, and whatever else. There's so much more to the book than just these little phrases that are thrown out without context. That's alarming when that happens.
I think what you're saying is the opposite, because if that's what they are trying to accomplish, given the reasons that you just stated, there is no reason for it to contain the language, the sexual innuendos, whoever, whatever. I don't understand how a book like this can benefit our student body when it's clearly almost approving everything that they're doing in that book. That's the message that I get from that.
If I could just weigh in one other time, Wendy, I do agree with you. Cherry picking material is definitely not the way to go. It's not certainly what I did when I read this book. The very opening scene within the first 2 minutes is just before midnight in a nightclub, and the characters are 17 plus, and so that was my reasoning. I just feel like it would be better suited for students who could, relate on that level, and I think that it would be beneficial for that, age range, moreover, than at the middle school level, where maybe just a couple of kids might be ready. Maturation level is so variable between students. 14 for one child may be very different than 14 for another child, and I think that we have to be really careful when we select things for libraries. So I think placing it in the high school was purely based on that, not cherry picking for content.
I have a question. Hang on, we're in the board member discussion section, sir. This is the board member discussion on a motion. He's not a board member. He's I'm not going to debate with you. Okay, go ahead. Kurt, board member.
Any other comments? Okay, to vote on the motion, Joanne?
Ms. Keeling?
Student had an opportunity to speak, and he will certainly have an opportunity at the end as well. He does not, under parliamentary law, have an opportunity to debate motions. Go ahead.
Joanne, vote yes.
Ms. Keeling?
I just want to be clear. Can we restate the motion, please?
Sure. So the motion would be to recommend that the challenged book, The Upside of Unrequited, be moved from the middle school library to the high school library effective tomorrow.
I vote yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
No.
Dr. Serrano?
No.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to move curriculum 16.1 to 16.9. Could I get a motion?
Motion.
Leanne, second.
Second.
That's Joanne.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael? Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
So we're voting on 16.1 again.
The whole.
All of 16.
All 16.
All of-
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, what we're voting on?
We're voting on all of 16 minus the motion we just voted on.
Minus the motion? Okay, then yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Moving to finance, move 17.1 to 17.8. Motion.
Motion.
Thank you. Christina, second.
Second.
And Joanne.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
And Mr. Morris?
Yes. Operations. It's a big one, 18.1 to 18.2. Motion?
Motion.
Wendy, second.
Second.
Walter, Joanne.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Okay, moving on, old business. Anyone have old business? Once, twice. Okay. New business. Okay, moving on, public comment number 2. The board uses the second public comment period to invite comments on all matters pertaining to the school district. Please state your name, municipality, and group affiliation, if appropriate, for the record. Each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak. All statements should be directed to me as presiding officer. The board or administration may or not respond to any questions, comments after conclusion of the public participation. Before we start, I just want to remind you, please be mindful of the speakers while they're up here. No calling out or heckling from the crowd, please.
Michael Gottesman, Wayne, New Jersey, founder of the New Jersey Public Education Coalition. Wow. I guess sometimes we put our trust in people when it's not deserved. All I can say is, et tu, Brute, because not only have you stabbed in the back all of these people who spoke, but you have sent a message to your professionals that they don't count. How long has this book been in the middle school library? Does anyone know? Probably a long time. What's changed in the community that you now need to remove it to the high school? Absolutely nothing. The only thing that's changed, Ms. Pitzer and Ms. Keeling and Mr. Knapp and Ms. McMichael, are the faces sitting in front of me. And what you have done is committed an ethical violation by substituting your personal opinions for those of the committee that you appointed to review this book. And I'm recommending two things to the people in this audience, because anyone can file an ethics complaint with the School Board Ethics Commission. Do it, every one of you, as many times as possible. Because you've all 4 of you or 5 of you that I've mentioned have violated your oath of office and your ethical oath and the code of ethics that you swore under God to stand by. So think about it, because not only have you cost the members of your community the right to speak and denied the professionals of your community, the professionals in your district, their recommendation, but you're going to be costing your district tens of thousands of dollars. That's money that's going to be taken away from children to educate them and going to pay lawyers. Because every single one of those ethics complaints is going to cost your taxpayers anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000. And that's why I say we don't want to have to file complaints. But when you give your residents no choice, that's what has to be done. So enjoy your votes tonight. Just as much as you're going to be enjoying defending the multitude of ethics complaints that you will be receiving over the next several weeks.
Thank you.
I am really very horrified. I'm shaking.
Can you
my
give your
heart.
name?
Oh, Chad Woods, Sparta. I sit on the Board of Education as a student liaison. I understand that this position is new, but I'm really horrified. Prior to coming to this meeting, I was really excited because I talked to Mr. Beck and Ms. Rossi, or Dr. Beck, sorry, about the procedure and how that they were going to go through the committee and create a committee specifically for this book, and they did as much, and they provided you the report, and you're completely denying what they have done as educators. I wanted to ask, but I was not given the opportunity to, and as this is new legislation, I would like to please move forward in allowing myself more opportunity to speak, because if I can't, then what am I there for? I have to stand up at public comment to speak when I have a position right at the board with a microphone. It's ridiculous.
You can speak at the good of the order. You don't have to say it now.
So please work on that, because that should not happen again. I just wanted to ask how many of you have seen the show Euphoria that came out recently. It was very, very popular. Board members, raise your hands, anyone? This show makes doing drugs look really cool. And it has a lot of curse words and a lot of horrible things that I know many 8th graders have seen. And considering that this media is available to 8th graders and that it's being presented in media by a renowned author, I think that would be a much better platform for students to receive such information as Molly and orgasms and cursing, which they'll probably hear from parents and older siblings anyway, or YouTube or the internet. I'm at a loss of words, and I hope you make the right decision.
Caitlin Gagnon again. So I'd like to say a few things. First, the treatment of Chad was absolutely terrible. I think that was abysmal, and there's a reason why he's sitting there, and I think the least you can do while you completely disregard our professionals and our parents is at least acknowledge the students you claimed you would put first. Secondly, Dr. Beck, I meant you no insult whatsoever when I referred to those building occupancy codes. I genuinely do believe that we're over capacity because of the issue that implies with the trailers. I'm not talking about our LRFP. I'm specifically talking about the building fire codes, and I have yet to hear a straight answer on that. Not saying from you, because this issue has been here long before you were. I know you're doing everything you can to make it right, and I certainly don't envy you, which I think I've been saying to you for a year now. But that being said, those are the matters we should be talking about tonight. Those are the matters that deserve to be featured on the homepage of our district website. Those are the matters that should be completely clear as day to us as parents, and they're not being there. They're not there, rather. So that's how I feel about that. I'm not surprised. We knew this was happening. You knew this was happening. You were smiling as we were all speaking. You knew this was orchestrated. I mean, come on. But the point is, I like to think that in Sparta we value our professionals more than people who couldn't handle how hard teaching was when they had kids and then had to go on and read. The last book report we got from you, Ms. McMichael, you were vomiting over gay sex. So I don't think, losing your lunch, I think was the term you used. So frankly, your comments fall on deaf ears. You're completely disregarding a committee that you put in place, again, likely orchestrated. And clearly, the work that you were doing with the complainant all throughout your campaign and chaos and control, who knows, some of which might even be here tonight because they were invited, clearly continues. Well done.
Thank you.
Good evening. Angie Hawthorne, Sparta, New Jersey. I just want to say I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed. I'm very frustrated. But I am proud of Dr. Beck, Mrs. Rossi, Wendy, and Vanessa. Thank you for being a voice when we couldn't be during this discussion. Thank you for taking the time to be part of the committee, run the committee, and make sure that it was fair. I apologize to our media specialists who are here. I see many of them, and they work very diligently to provide excellent education for our children. And to have people who are not experts in any way overmine what they do every day is disgusting and absurd, to say the least. The parents that are complaining maybe should do some more parenting instead of trying to get books out of schools. If my child came to me with a book that I was questioning, I would ask my child, what are you interested in taking this book out for? Maybe there's a discussion that could have been had with your children instead of limiting the access to other children. It's not fair. And I think that that needs to be a conversation in the district, how to help parents parent as opposed to restricting our children from things that they may be interested in. Thank you so much to the committee, please.
Brad Prohl in Sparta. Thank you very much, Board of Education, for the decisions that you made tonight. There was a majority that voted for you, and that's why you're here tonight. Thank you.
Jen Hamilton, 37 Holland Circle. To say that I am disappointed in our newly elected board is the understatement of the century. I would like to just Note that in the PICO case that deals with, the only Supreme Court case that deals with book banning, and make no mistake, moving this book to the high school is a book ban. So the Supreme Court in PICO, Justice Brennan said that although First Amendment rights are limited in the schoolhouse, the special characteristics of the school library make that environment especially appropriate for the recognition of the First Amendment rights of students. The school library, he added, is the principal locus of student freedom to inquire, to study, and to evaluate, to gain new maturity and understanding. And the fact that you sat here today and substituted your judgment on my children, my parenting abilities, because you feel that a book is inappropriate for that age group is appalling. It is not only an ethical violation, but it is a First Amendment violation, a constitutional violation, and the lawsuits will follow for this district. And unfortunately, it's gonna cost me and the taxpayers a lot of money, and it's gonna cost you guys a lot of money because of a decision that you made that was completely outside your bounds. Thank you to Wendy, to Vanessa, to Ms. Rossi, to Dr. Beck, for following our board-sanctioned policy in coming up with a committee, in coming up with a decision from the committee, in presenting that at this Board of Education meeting. And the last thing I want to say is, I'm very angry, but the last thing I want to say is tonight we came into this board meeting honoring our Governor Educators of the Year.
1 minute.
And at the same time, you turned around and you slapped every one of them in the face, and shame on you.
Good evening, Frida Lewis, Sparta, New Jersey. I actually didn't plan on commenting at all because, actually, Mrs. Rossi, I am a parent who read the book, the entire book. And I had one comment to make, and your synopsis of the book was excellent. I'm standing here as a parent to say I wish for this book to be available to my 8th grader. And part of the reason, there were so many other points to the book. People want to talk about the word orgy. Orgy was never once in the book discussed in any way, shape, or form with sexual intercourse. It was discussed from the perspective of kids making out, okay? There was so many lessons to be learned. There was such an issue with butthole waxing. Now, in the context of the book, it was a young man telling the main character, not the main character, telling a character in the book that she needed to shave with sex, and the young girls were saying, well, he needs to wax his butthole. So, which is a feminist thought in there. There were so many points in this book. Is it literature that's gonna follow? No, it's not my favorite. You know, I read it because I feel like you shouldn't have an opinion until you read the entire book. So to just take out how many words were stated in such a way is completely ridiculous. I actually had hope after you gave a synopsis of the book that everyone would say, okay, maybe this book has some type of purpose or some type where a student can see themselves in this book. What I am so afraid of is this is a template for so many more books. That is my fear. The books of representation, Sparta is changing, and this book, okay, for the parent who had an issue with the book, had 4 homosexual characters, not just 1, to be clear, okay? This was the main character, had a twin sister who was homosexual, and
1
then
minute.
it had parents, 2 moms who were also homosexual, who in the end had a family member who did not support their relationship and actually came to the wedding at the end to support them. There were so many points in this book. I'm disappointed. I don't even know what to say, but I do thank those who voted with the committee, and I appreciate that, and I'm just asking that this is not a template for all the other books that we had issues with in the past and are going to start having issues with in the future. Thank you.
There's no one else to make a motion to close public session number
Kirk,
2.
there's a lady in the back.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
The gentleman from, what was the organization?
Sir, ma'am, if you could just...
Nancy Madaxi.
Thank you, and if you could just direct your comments to the chair, thank you.
Okay, the gentleman from that organization suggested perhaps we should start suggesting what books you should look at. How about the canon, Moby Dick, by the gay author Herman Melville? What do you think that big white whale stood for? Okay? We also, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Scarlet Letter, adultery, okay? There's tons of other books in the canon. Shakespeare. How about yes, and finally the Bible. Deuteronomy. What does Deuteronomy say? If two husbands get together and have a fight, if the wife grabs the private part of the person who's fighting her husband, her arm has to be cut off. If a person is raped, you are required to marry your rapist. Yeah, bring them on, start making those complaints on all of those books that have to be now examined because of your standing. Thank you.
Patty Rivas, 2 Crows Lane. I have so many thoughts, and they're not organized because I'm irate right now. I went to Sparta, grew up in Sparta. My parents lived in Sparta, grew up in Sparta. 3rd generation. Went to school with some of you sitting here. And I left Sparta, went to California, I came back, thought I will never go back there because Sparta was always a place where racism and bigotry and just unacceptance, we've always been that community. And in fact, Sparta has deep roots in racism. But I was encouraged, and my mom's still here, I was encouraged to come back because I wanted to be close to my family. And when I walked into my son's kindergarten classroom, I saw that almost half of his class were people of color. I was so delighted because in my class, my graduating class, 1 person of color. So I thought, wow, we're really getting somewhere. We are progressing. We are moving past this. And now I look here today, and I see so many of you smug, smiling that this is a victory for you. This is a victory? The rest of the country is moving forward and progressing and talking about inclusivity, and people are dying from hate crimes, and this is a victory? And the fact that you can sit here and smile, I'm shaking. I'm so disgusted. I just bought a house here, and I want nothing more than to get the hell out of here. I'm disgusted. And thank you to the board members who have enough sense and dignity and empathy to make the right decision. And to the rest of you, I just hope that there is some way that I can be standing here one day soon and won't have to see you.
Maria Chacon again. I just wanted to tell you that when I was driving in here, there was a sign that said stigma-free. And I think you should take the sign down, especially you, Leanne Peitzer, with you're so rude. You're laughing while people are talking, making smarky faces. So I recommend that you stop thinking about yourselves and your beliefs and your right-wing extremist ideas. You're here for the children. You were elected as board members to serve the school district, to take away your ideologies and your beliefs and your religion. Think about the best for the students. There are queer students in the schools, and they deserve representation in books. That's all. It's safe. Look at what's online. Your kids are probably buying drugs online. You know, there's the dark web. that you could buy the vapors? You could buy them and collect them by the school and smoke them behind your back. So while you, Miss Lay, are laughing, think about it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joy Schmitz, 136 Sawmill Road. My children both went through Sparta, had a wonderful experience in Sparta. I came in here tonight because when I saw what was going to be happening, I was very upset. And I am a teacher. I was a teacher for 39 years. Most of my career was spent in Byram. I taught elementary and special ed students. As a matter of fact, one of my students is here. One of my parents is here. And I don't have a lot to say because these people here said it all perfectly, and you're just not listening. But when I walked in here tonight, I saw this bulletin board right outside this room of a third grade building that says, "We are like snowflakes, different in our own way. Our children are like snowflakes, different. Your children may not be the same as somebody else's children." We learn to accept each other by learning about each other, not by excluding each other, not by pushing people away. I taught this in 4th grade social studies. Culture contact is how we learn to be accepting of each other, is how we learn to embrace each other. What you're doing is so divisive. I'm shocked. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I am. Thank you, that's it.
Hey, real quick, everybody keeps talking about a book ban. I don't understand how Daniel O'Malley, Sparta, New Jersey, Main Streets of Sparta, how is moving it 1 year from 8th grade to freshman year a ban? It's not a ban. It's giving kids time to mature, to learn what they need to learn by their parents, and then move on to when they're ready for it, because some children aren't mature enough for it, okay? That's one thing. And then 2 things, all these people that are here that got voted in this year, you got voted in for a reason, okay? The people might not be here sitting in this crowd right now, but you got voted in because of how you voted tonight, okay? These people, remember how they dragged you guys through the mud through your entire election, okay? And now they want you to listen to them and to vote how they want you to vote. It doesn't work like that. You guys drag these people through the mud, and now you're like, oh, you should vote it this way. No, it doesn't work like that. The guy that was up here talking about taxpayers paying debts to this, okay? He's not even a taxpayer in this town. So I don't know why he's complaining. Okay, and so are the people who voted for these people who voted this way. So that's all, guys. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Sanchez, 122 Summit Road in Sparta. I think that if the librarians, I know that they routinely audit their collection, and I know that they sometimes will recommend that one book from one library goes to another library. If the librarians had made that decision and looked at the book and said, you know what, this really does belong in the high school, okay, that would be fine. They have a job, they're paid well, they're highly qualified to make those decisions. And I don't even know if they were on the committee or even consulted in this process, but it's certainly not your job to decide what books are in the library. And we're not asking you to vote the way we want. I'm not saying choose the books that are best for my kids. I'm saying trust the experts who gave a recommendation, who looked into this thoroughly, all read the book, have the qualifications. That is who should be making these decisions, not you guys, and not even the parents. You can control what your own children read. I do. I let my daughters read that in 8th grade. But you don't have to. Like, we can make those decisions for our kids. We can let the librarians make decisions about what goes in the library, and educators make the decision about, collectively our children's education. The process really matters here. I don't think the fact that the book is in the high school library is the real true problem. The problem is that this was not the way this was supposed to work. It is not your job. This is such overreach. I mean, ridiculous. And the process did go the way it was supposed to, with the committee and reviewing the book, making the recommendation, and then to veto it with really no explanation other than you don't like it, that's not how this is supposed to work. And it really does just invite more problems, more challenges, more disagreement, more divisiveness. Banner job.
I will try this again. Motion to close, second comment.
Motion.
Walter, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I just want to make a comment real quick to Chad. Chad, you're not limited to talk while you're up here. You can only talk at certain times during your presentation, and then instead of getting up to the mic to give your thoughts, you can wait till the good of the order and speak in your seat here. Okay?
Can I respond back?
At the good of the order.
At the good of the order, you can speak, yes.
I wanted to respond to a couple comments, too.
Okay, go ahead.
I also wanted to respond to a few of the comments. We have great respect for our rep. We're glad you're here. We like to hear what you have to say, but by law, the student representative is not a voting member of the board, and therefore that's why I had to chime in. Please. That's why I had to chime in, because we were in the middle of a vote on a motion. And so at that point in time, he did not have the legal right to participate in the discussion on the motion. As Mr. Morris points out, he's got a section on the agenda for student representative report. He's welcome to chime in on anything that's on his mind. And then certainly at the end of the meeting, for the good of the order, when we go around the table, everybody, including the representative, has a right to speak, and we'd like to hear what he has to say. That was the first thing. The second thing, there's no ethical violation here, sir. There's no ethical violation. Okay, so let me explain something. It's my turn. I didn't interrupt you. It's my turn. We have a policy. The process that we went through tonight followed the policy, and it also followed the regulation, from the formation of the committee by the superintendent, to the committee's review of the book, to the committee's report to the board, which it reviewed, and then ultimately, per policy, the board gets to vote on it if it so chooses. Voting on a policy is not an ethical violation. The fact that you didn't like the outcome is not an ethical violation. I question whether, stop interrupting me, please. I question whether you would have claimed an ethical violation if the vote went the other way. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to the good of the order. Chad.
I have a few comments to make. My first one is, if you are a sitting board member and you still have your phone ringer on, that is unbelievably disrespectful, and I'm honestly horrified. The second thing I would talk about is how we began this meeting.
Chad, can you hold on a second?
Yes, I
Sir,
can.
if you're going to continue to make comments, you're going to be escorted out. Okay? Do you understand? Okay. Okay, go ahead, Chad. Sorry about that.
Secondly, I loved hearing the teacher presentations. It's really nice to feel secure in the teachers that we have here, but it left me a poor taste in my mouth when I walked in to see a full audience with teachers and parents and loved ones, to then automatically start with a closed session for about 10 to 15 minutes. I think you choose the order in which you go in, and I don't know why that you begin with that, but I think when you have such an important event with such important people that you should value the most, I don't know why they were barred second. The third thing is, I agree with someone's sentiments of the precedent of what's going to happen if this book is removed or censored, and what this does mean for the future. There have been previous attacks and teachers lost over books in classrooms, and I'm really, really afraid for the future generations that are going to be sitting in these libraries and having books that have certain presentations targeted. And my final thought is that when people are talking about smug remarks from board members, I completely agree. I'm sitting here, and as people are talking, I see people smiling and rocking back in their chair. And in my head, at first, I was like, oh, this is simple, because Ms. Rossi and Dr. Beck had this great process, and everyone's going to hear the comment and going to have an open mind and think, oh, let's trust the professionals. And this is the only agenda that I have, and I don't know what other agenda people have, but it's horrifying, and you should not be in a position with alternative agendas that are not being publicly shared.
Any other comments? Keep going.
Yeah. Any other comments? Any other go to the order?
No, I just want to make a comment about the computers. We have our computers here so that we are able, our agenda, for one, is on there because there's things in here that we can click on. And it also gives us easy access to pull up the policy so that we can look and comment and be accurate in what we're saying. So this is not some sort of shady thing to have a computer here. It's to help us do our jobs the best that we can. I just want to make that clear since that comment came up.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy. Okay, now we're going to move into closed session. We're going to go into closed session. Action will not be taken after closed session or while we're in closed session. We'll be adjourning from closed session. Motion to,
Yeah, attorney-client privilege.
yeah, we're going down to regarding attorney-client privilege.
And what else, Matt? Personnel?
For you,
Negotiations?
2 hours. I,
We'll be
45
in
minutes.
for 45 minutes.
45 minutes? Yeah, no action's going to be taken while
So
we're
you
there.
need to make an actual motion.
Yeah,
now.
motion to go to closed session.
The motion for closed session is for matters, hang on one second, we're still in the middle of a vote, please. There's a motion to go into closed session for matters of attorney-client privilege, personnel, negotiations, Dr. Beck? Anything pertaining to negotiations and confidential student matters? We need a second. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? No? Okay.
All right.
Turn your mics off.